Grimgar of Ashes and Illusion, Volume 3. The story so far. Awaken. Such he was told, and when he opened his eyes, before him was the unknown world of Grimgar. In order to survive, Haruhiro and the others end up adventuring day after day as reserve force soldier trainees. They lose their leader, Minato, while Mary joins them soon after. They gain a little more experience and become full-fledged Crimson Moon members. In order to test their strength, Team Haruhiro move on to fighting kobolds in the Siren Mines. Though the beginning was tough, they slowly begin to get stronger. In the mines, Ranta becomes separated from the group, and they find themselves faced with Mary's former companions. They succeed in releasing Mary's companions from their cursed states. However, just when they think everything is over, they are attacked by Deathpatch. Moments before Deathpatch could wipe out the entire party, Haruhiro kills him with a single blow. His companions celebrate while Haruhiro is left in disbelief. They had survived. The adventure, however, doesn't end there. Written by Ayo Jamanji. Level 3. Even the best laid plans go awry, but such is this world. Chapter 1. Myself, Natural Talent, and Bittersweetness. Ranta, don't get too separated from us, Haruhiro warned as he circled behind the kobold foreman Moguzo had just engaged, looking for an opening to exploit. Not that it was hard to find. There again now! The elder kobold's defense was full of holes. He could easily take it down. Haruhiro watched as the elder's tail swiftly swished all around, but he had grasped the pattern of its movements now. If Moguzo attacked in A way, then it would react with B, then do C next. And if not C, then it would do D for sure. Haruhiro was able to predict its movements. He was confident he could finish it quickly with either Backstab or Widowmaker. But he didn't close in. He didn't want to finish it. Simply killing it was not his goal. He wanted the line to appear for him, that hazy, indistinct line that glowed like fire. He wanted to be able to see it. Master Barbara of the Thieves Guild had once told him, "The line that you see, feel perhaps is a better way to describe it, appears once or twice to anyone who's accumulated enough experience." She had also said, "It's not like we can will it to appear by concentrating hard or anything." And though she told him that's not a bad sign, she also warned him, "But don't be mistaken, it's not anything special. It appears once or twice to anyone who's accumulated enough experience," but it had appeared more than once or twice for Haruhiro, and it had appeared for him bright and distinct when he killed Deathpatch. If the line hadn't appeared, there was no way Haruhiro would have been able to kill the kobold boss. Deathpatch would have left Haruhiro behind and gone after everyone else, maybe even killed him. How many would have died? The line had saved Haruhiro, had saved them all. But it appeared by coincidence. It just happened to appear for him. And if that was the case, then it had been pure luck. Haruhiro had just gotten lucky. If fortune hadn't been with him, then everyone might have died. Haruhiro didn't want to believe that they had been saved by nothing but fortune. He didn't really understand his own reasoning, but he did know for certain that he wanted to see the line. He wanted to be able to see it at will. If he could make it appear whenever he wanted, then he would be invincible. Not that he had any ambitions to become godlike or anything, but he did want to be strong. He wanted the strength to turn the tide of battle when it mattered. Think! Came Moguzo's finishing blow. Line. Come on, appear. Come on, appear, Line. Haruhiro begged. But diagonally down Moguzo's sword came, behind the rage cleave technique that came all of Moguzo's terrible physical strength in a single crushing blow. Moguzo's sword cut a good 20 inches down into the elder kobold's shoulder, rending the chainmail it wore as if it didn't exist. Moguzo's strength was unbelievable. It wasn't all muscle though. It was also his new sword, the chopper. Everyone had given suggestions for the name of Moguzo's new sword, but in the end, Ranta's suggestion, the chopper, was adopted. The sword was of average length, about 4 feet long, but its blade was incredibly thick, and though it had a crossguard, its overall appearance was that of a giant meat cleaver. It was the sword previously owned by Deathpatch, but Moguzo was also making very effective use of it. He kicked the kobold foreman down with a grunt, then brought down the blade onto its head, cracking its skull open like an egg. Next! Moguzo shouted. Damn, awesome and badass, Haruhiro thought. Haru! Mary yelled, while he was being awed by Moguzo's powers. Yeah, Haruhiro yelled back. What the hell are you doing? Ranta railed. Ranta was the last person Haruhiro wanted to hear from, but he had to admit he'd been a little spaced out just now. Lately, they had been hunting elder kobolds in the residential-like third stratum of the Siren mines. Most elders' talismans fetched high prices at the market, and after they eliminated Deathpatch, the third stratum was a relatively safe place to do their hunting. The income they garnered here was very stable. That wasn't to say that the danger was zero, however. This was still enemy territory, and they would pay a price if they let themselves become complacent. Moguzo had taken out the foreman, leaving only 2 kobold workers. Ranta worked on Kobold A, while Yume and Mary teamed up to take on Kobold B. But just then, another elder leading 3 little piggies, or workers, charged towards them from a little ways off. Right when they thought the remainder of the fight would be a breeze because of the toughest of the bunch was down, the world went and threw a wrench in their plans. 6 of them, just as Haruhiro finished the head count. Moguzo yelled, "Thank you!" and crushed Mary and Yume's opponent, Kobold B. Make it 5, Haruhiro amended. Take this! Ranta locked blades with Kobold A and shoved in hard. It was his new Dread Knight skill, Expel Frenzy, where he'd press in with his sword to hold back an opponent who had gotten in too close before leaping back and putting more distance between them. It wasn't supposed to be a flashy technique, but Ranta had a way of over-exaggerating anything he did. Haruhiro had to admit, though, that Expel Frenzy did have the potential to combine well with other techniques. Anger Thrust! Ranta had executed the technique outside of range, but took a step forward to make up for it and drove his sword into the base of the kobold's throat. It was instant death for the kobold, and Haruhiro reluctantly admitted that Ranta looked kinda cool for a split second there. It wasn't just his fighting techniques that had improved. Ranta was also equipped with the new helm. The bucket-shaped helmet that he had been so partial to was damaged beyond repair, so he'd bought a new bassinet helmet, complete with the pull-down visor. It was used but painted black, and Ranta had said something dumb about making him look like a kick-ass Dread Knight should. Well, Haruhiro had to concede to that a little now, because Ranta did seem very Dread Knight-like in a split second of a moment. 4 more to go, Haruhiro yelled, slightly flustered as he began to call out orders again. He was the leader, after all. Moguzo, you've got the elder. Ranta, take out one of the workers, and take it down fast. Me and Yume will take out the other 2. Moguzo engaged the elder with a shout. When they locked blades, Moguzo executed Spiral Slash and pressed the attack, forcing the foreman back. Hatred's cut! Ranta leaped at Kobold C. His initial attack was deflected, but Ranta kept pressing forward, unleashing an offensive flurry. Yume attacked Kobold D head-on, and when it countered with the swing of its shovel, she performed a low somersault to avoid it. Her new skill, Fox Vault. It was actually considered to be a kukri-based technique, although Haruhiro didn't see why. The weapon was never used directly. Yume closed in again on the surprised Kobold D and executed her sweeping slash and cross-cut combo, forcing it to retreat. Whoa, Haruhiro shouted, though he wasn't trying to make a ruckus or anything. Dueling a single opponent wasn't really a thief-class forte. Kobold E swung its shovel at Haruhiro multiple times while Haruhiro deflected its attacks with swat. The shovels were used for mining, but made with metal from handle to tip, so they were also effective as weapons. Swat was mostly a defensive skill, but if the opportunity arose, Haruhiro could also use it to create an opening in his opponent's defenses. He did so now on Kobold E, brought its shovel down in a wide arc. Haruhiro dodged rather than deflecting it with swat. Kobold E realized the danger and quickly drew his weapon back in. It attacked again, but this time with a smaller, more compact swing, going more for speed than power. Now, Haruhiro thought as he deflected Kobold E's shovel with swat. It wasn't the usual swat though. Haruhiro put strength behind the technique to force the Kobold shovel off to the side and away from its body. The Kobold was now wide open. Haruhiro stepped in towards it, using his left hand and right forearm to grab and arm lock Kobold E's right arm. Kobold E yelped when its elbow became immobilized, even as Haruhiro swept its feet from under it and brought it to the ground. It was a new technique that Master Barbara taught, or rather pounded into him, arrest. And while it felt nice when he executed it perfectly, it wasn't really a flashy technique. While Kobold E was still on the ground, Haruhiro stamped his foot hard on its jaw. A kobold's head was shaped like a dog's. Their bite was powerful, but the bone structure was delicate. The way their jaws were built made them especially vulnerable to attacks from the side. Kobold E was now unconscious, or close enough. Umrel ek pramdas, Shioru. A fuzzy black seaweed-like shadow elemental shot from the tip of Shihoru's staff, flying through the air in a tight spiral. Yume, watch out, Shihoru warned. Yume ducked with a yelp as the shadow elemental flew past where her head had been. It hit Kobold D straight in the face and began to seep into its body through its ears, mouth, and nose. Kobold D's movement ceased, its body stiffening like a wooden board. Shihoru's new technique, Shadow Complex, was a spell that literally got into the heads of enemies to bewilder them. She had picked up this particular spell because she wanted more offensive abilities, and indeed, unlike Phantom Sleep, it would work even on alert and strong-willed opponents. The spell choice suited Shihoru very much and was incredibly useful in combat too. Even as Yume watched, Kobold D suddenly tossed aside its shovel, looking incredibly confused. Yume attacked furiously with her kukri, punctuating each swing with a shout. By the time Kobold D regained its senses, it was too late. Yume had shredded up its body so badly that there would be no counterattack. Ah! Ranta finished off Kobold C with the Expel Frenzy Anger Thrust combo he had been so enamored with lately. Moguzo's grunt came from nearby, and Haruhiro wondered if the elder was putting up a tough fight. No, that's not the case, Haruhiro realized. The elder seemed to have found an opening and was bringing its sword down on Moguzo's left arm, but only because Moguzo was purposely letting it. Moguzo was now equipped with a steel fob that protected its waist and steel vambraces on both arms. Both were used but had been refitted by an armor, and Moguzo had also acquired a new fighting technique to complement his heavy armor. The Elder Foreman's sword came down on Moguzo's arm with a heavy clang, but glanced off. It wasn't simply a normal deflection though. It was the Steel Guard technique. He didn't belong to the Warriors Guild, so Haruhiro didn't really know the details behind it, but it was some sort of special way of reinforcing one's armor with one's energy so that all the enemy's attacks would bounce off. And as if that was enough defense, the entire team was under Mary's Light of Protection spell, which enhanced physical ability, resistances, and sped up the body's ability to heal itself. The spell probably has something to do with the god of light, Luminous, as his hexagon symbol floated above everyone's left wrist while they were under the spell effects. According to Mary, it could be cast up to 6 people and lasted for up to 30 minutes. Haruhiro felt the spell's effectiveness as his body became noticeably lighter, which enhanced his fighting ability enormously. And maybe thanks to light protection, Moguzo also moved swiftly to finish off the elder. "Thank you!" Moguzo shouted. Of course, Moguzo would use Rage Cleave. It wasn't just his standard finishing move, it was a powerful, stable, and most of all, a magnificent technique. Moguzo's sword crushed into the shoulder of the already off-balance elder. It was almost the exact same way he had killed the first foreman. Moguzo's form and style were elegant, and unlike Ranta, he never resorted to doing weird shit and cheap tricks just to try to look cool. He was a simple person in the good sense of the phrase. He stuck to the same basic techniques, but practiced them so often that he gave them his own customized, unique form of their own. Maybe Haruhiro was overstating it a little, but there was no doubt that Rage Cleave in Moguzo's hands had gone from an average, run-of-the-mill technique to a devastating killing blow. Of course, Rage Cleave's effectiveness must also have been affected by things like the user's physical strength, proficiency, and weapon quality, among other factors, but what made it so effective for Moguzo was undoubtedly his timing. Whenever he recognized an opening, Moguzo used it. The precise timing with which he used Rage Cleave made Haruhiro want to give Moguzo a standing ovation every time he saw it. In fact, he wanted to applaud Moguzo even now, should he actually do it. As Haruhiro considered that, Ranta attacked Kobold D from behind. Yume already had it on the run, but Ranta's attack finished it.